doing theory work to understand whatever experiment you're doing, whether it's in the medical science field, whether it's in neuroscience, whether it's in physics. But the flip side is that theorists can come up with many stories. Ultimately, the test of those understanding, those attempts to understand hypothesis is experimentation. And in astronomy, that's observation. We cannot restart the universe. Nobody can go back and press reset and start the universe again. But we can make observations and see how our understanding compares to what we observe in the universe. The first thing I'd like to do is just give you a sense of how much we have understood about our universe in the last 20, 30 years. So we go to the next slide. So, since this is a general lecture, I thought I'd start at a basic place, and a good point to start for my talk is the galaxy. So we live in a galaxy known as the Milky Way. This galaxy has a shape of a pizza. Think of all the stars sort of going round and round in a pizza pie. And so this is what it would look like. We, of course, can't take a picture of our own galaxy, but what we can do is we have a good understanding of what the galaxy looks like, and so this is an artist's diagram. This is the center of our galaxy. The sun is sitting just about here, about a third of the way out from the center of the galaxy. Okay, so that's where our solar system is. The sun is a star, and the sun is one of 100 billion stars in our galaxy. So, could we go to the next slide? So if you go to a dark place, a place where there's no light pollution, which is getting rarer and rarer these days, but if you go to a dark place and you look up in the sky, you will see a view that looks like this. What you are seeing up there is a lot of stars. You are seeing a band that cuts across the sky, and that band is our own galaxy. Because we are sitting in the galaxy, in the pizza pie, and we're looking in and out, what we see is a band of stars that cut across the galaxy like this. But hidden amongst the stars, there are other galaxies. And so this is an image of what a little patch of the sky would look like if you could point a telescope and look at it, and you would see that amongst the stars, there are many, many, many galaxies present. So could we have the next one? And then these galaxies themselves have different shapes. Some of them look like our own galaxy, and then the next one. And some of them look completely different. Some of them look like pizza pies, and some of them look like bowls of stars. And this is an example of something that looks like a ball of stars. Yeah, actually you were right on. Next slide, please. This is a complete sort of a picture of all the different types of galaxies that exist. What I want you to understand here is that galaxies are as diverse as human beings are. They come in every shape, every size. They have different types of properties. Some of them are blue in color because they are rapidly forming stars. Some of them have stopped forming stars and they are getting older. And in the stellar sense, in terms of color, all systems tend to be red. So red and blue kinds of galaxies, and everything in between. We have flat galaxies, pizza-like galaxies like our own. So we have the next slide, next little clip. We have galaxies that are like bowls of stars, as I mentioned earlier. These are the ones that look like our galaxy, except you can see the patterns in them are very different from one to the other. And then there are galaxies that look like smudges of stars. And so there is such a huge variety. One of the challenges that we have is not just to figure out how galaxies form, but why are they so different? What made them so different? And so let's go to the next slide. So before I start, I do want to emphasize that when I say observers see, you heard a little bit about that in the introduction. When observers see, I don't mean see using visible light only. Visible light is a tiny little slice of a kind of radiation that we call electromagnetic radiation. If you take visible light, it's a wave, and you stretch it so the waves get longer and longer, you move from visible to infrared to microwave radiation, all the way down to radio waves. radio waves, microwave radiation, visible light is all part of the same kind of radiation. And then if you squeeze the waves, you make them shorter, so the waves get shorter and shorter and shorter, then you move to ultraviolet, you move to X-rays, and then you move to gamma rays. So, all of these radiation is electromagnetic. When I say we observe the universe, we study the universe, we look at it in all of these wavelengths. We look at them in X-ray, we look at it in gamma rays, we look at it in ultraviolet, we look at it in visible, and so on and so forth. So, could I have the next slide? So this is what a galaxy like our own Milky Way would look like if you were to look at it, for example, in the optical. So this is when you take a regular telescope and point it at it, this is what it would look like, right? You see stars glowing and things like that. Then, if you go to infrared, you are looking at old stars. Remember, old stars tend to be red, and so you tend to see infrared colors, and so that's what the stars would look like. In radio, this is what the same galaxy would look like. In ultraviolet, it looks completely different, and in X-rays, it looks yet different again. So again, it's not just understanding the different shapes and sizes and different properties of galaxies, but also why they look so different from each other in the different spectrum, in the different bands. Why do they look different in X-rays than they do in ultraviolet? All of this is part of understanding the universe. Okay, next slide. So I'm going to skip over this, but it's just an image of our own galaxy in the same thing. It's going from radio through infrared, through optical to X-ray. Let's continue on. All right, so this is a picture going back to the one I had shown earlier, which is a night sky. This one, I believe, is from Ladakh. This is a picture that was shown at ASI last year, and it's such a pretty picture that I had to have it for a presentation like this. It's a Milky Way band right there. You can see, and then in the Milky Way, you'll see a region where sort of there are more stars. It becomes a thicker, fuzzy region, but there's a lot of darkness in it. Now, I use the word Milky Way because that's the word that astronomers around the world have adopted for our galaxy. It looks like a squirt of milk that's spread across the sky. The story comes from Greek mythology. But I discovered a few years ago that in Hindu mythology, or in Indian mythology, the same galaxy is known as Chayapant, because the emphasis here is on this dark path in the sky amongst the stars. And so you can see that cultures around the world have come up with different ways of looking at the sky, but everybody is fascinated by the sky. But sky is even more important in the sense that in the olden days, it was how we navigated around the world. We used the stars to guide ourselves through the ocean, through deserts, and then we also used it for timekeeping. We used it for keeping track of when is the planting season and when is the harvesting season. And a lot of our great festivals the festivals that we celebrate today are associated with those events. Let's continue on. And now I mentioned that there is this region here that thickens up and has a dark, both dark and light here. That is the center of center of our galaxy. And so we can actually think about sitting in a pizza slice, spacing the center of the pizza and looking at it. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing the center. And in the center, there is a gigantic black hole. And if you've seen the movie Interstellar, you will know that I have stolen this image from the movie Interstellar. It's actually a very realistic movie of what a black hole would look like. A black hole is a very strong gravitational region with such strong gravity that everything has collapsed in. And all the gas around it is swirling and falling in, and so this is the gas that's swirling and falling in. In fact, it turns out that every galaxy in the universe has a big black hole in its center. And when I say big, I mean like our own is about 1 million times the size of our sun. And typically, galaxies have black holes that are size of 1 billion times the size of our sun. So these are massive, huge objects. How do they form? Why are they sitting in the center of our galaxy or centers of all the galaxies? And what have they done? Like, what is their effect? All of this is part of the questions that we would try and answer. So let's go to the next slide. Maybe I'll wait for a second while the new student group that's coming in will just sit down.
Please be quiet and settle down very quickly. जो जहाँ पे है वहीं पे बैठ जाइए. बैठो बैठो. Now please let your children sit down quickly.
While we're waiting for that to sit down, I don't know when exactly we started, but can somebody give me just 11 questions? So can you give me a sort of a sign or something when we're reaching 11:50? No, but I will, but I just want to know where I am in terms of time. So just give me some mark or something at about 30 minutes from now.
जल्दी बैठो भाई. Sit down.
Yes.
Please sit down quickly. Sit on the steps. Steps पे बैठो. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so I mentioned that there's black holes in the centers of galaxies, and these are very, very large black holes, very strong gravity, so strong that if something was to fall into a black hole, it's not coming out again. The gravity is so strong that even light cannot get out. So we do not know what happens inside a black hole. And now, things fall into a black hole. Because of its gravity, as I've mentioned, every time a star comes too close to a black hole, the black hole will grab it and swallow it. We've actually observed this happening in the last few years. If gas is swirling around and it gets too close to the black hole will pull it in. Now, when a star or gas falls into a black hole, as it's falling in, it will radiate tremendously. It puts out huge amount of radiation, and that radiation comes out in two forms. One, it comes out in electromagnetic radiation, the kind of radiation I talked about, and the other form is very, very powerful jets. Very high, it's like a fire hose, right? Or a hose of water. I turn it on and I point it at you and you get this jet of water squirting at you. That's what it's like. There's very powerful jets coming out of black holes. And as they spread out, they affect the environment all around them. So here you're seeing black hole images, real images of black holes that are in fact firing these jets that are pouring out and coming out. So this is an artist's rendition. This is an actual image. And these jets extend out vast differences. But not only that, black holes themselves, when they are fully engaged, they radiate more brightly than 100 billion stars. They can outshine everything in the galaxy. And we see these as quasars. So if you ever hear the word quasar being mentioned, this is what it is. These are black holes that are shining brilliantly. All right, next slide. So I mentioned that jets and energy from black holes can affect the region all around it. Huge regions around it. I just want to give you a sense of what that means. So this is a galaxy. Inside that galaxy, there is a black hole in the center. You can just barely make it out. And then if you look carefully, you see this blue streak coming out. That's a jet. That's this fire hose of high velocity gas that is pouring out of the black hole. And it doesn't look like it's going very far, right? Maybe the size of a galaxy. Okay, next click. This is what it really looks like when you look at it in radio. So you can see that it has affected a huge distance around it, literally changed the environment around it. And that environment is roughly about 4 times the size of the galaxy itself. So things fall into a galaxy. Galaxy has its own processes going on, but that process of galaxies will then change the environment around it, and then the environment will then affect the galaxy. So, when parents are talking about raising children, there's often this discussion going on. Is it nature? Is it your genetic stuff that's making all of it that's important? Or is it nurture? Is it the kind of environments that the parent creates for you that makes a difference? Turns out in nature, both play a role. And in the universe, we see this vividly. Galaxies are affected by nature, also by nurture. And this is an example of nature taking effect on the situation around it. All right, next. Now, I've talked to you about individual galaxies. Let's ask the question, if I look at the universe, what do the galaxies look like? How are they spread out in the universe? So this is an image from a survey. It's a 2-mass survey showing the dots on here are not stars. Each dot is a galaxy, with the exception of this bright band in the center that's our own galaxy, which we can't sort of remove. Each of those dots up there is a galaxy in and of itself. Each dot is about 100 billion stars. Now, if you look at this, it looks really smooth. It looks like it's all spread out evenly everywhere. But let's look at it more carefully. So let's go to the next slide. What you're about to see is as my colleagues, taking images of how far away it is. It's like me taking a picture of this room and everybody looks like they're close to each other. Just everybody looks like they're on a sheet of paper, flat, right? But if I could figure out who's in the first row, who's in the second row, who's in the third row, who's in the last row, I can make a map of what this auditorium looks like. And then I can figure out who are the friends and who are sitting together and why is there 2 empty chairs sitting there. Things like that. What you're about to see here is an example like that. Some of these slides are a little on the dark side, but hopefully, yeah. So you can see here these chains. So galaxies are not spread out evenly. They are distributed across the universe in big chains. It's like a necklace. Everywhere there are necklaces where the galaxies themselves are like jewels in the necklace. They're twinkling, they're bright, but they are spread out in these large necklaces that are organized across the universe. And then where there is no galaxy and no jewels, you will see empty regions. So you can see here, there's this huge empty region. So the universe is not uniform, it's not homogeneous, it's not the same everywhere in every direction. It is very different. There's organizations. If you study the human body, it's like how the blood vessels are organized. Blood vessels have their own little paths that they carve through the body, and rivers also do the same thing. You don't have water everywhere, you have water in the rivers as they flow towards the ocean. In the same way, the universe has all the galaxies are organized in these streams or filaments, as we call them. So let's go to the next slide. When I put all of this together, this is what it looks like. Now here, this is all the galaxies. It's like taking a picture of this room, but I have color-coded. People in the front row are violet, people in the back row are green, and so I've mapped out everybody on this one image, and you can see that there are different colors, and galaxies of different colors belong together, are sitting in these chains like this, or like this. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Now, where these filaments meet, it's like rivers meeting together. Where these rivers meet, you have a confluence. You have concentration of water. Here, we have a concentration of galaxies. And so you have huge regions where there is thousands of galaxies that are sort of pushed together. And this is just 2 examples of such concentrations that we call clusters of galaxies. These galaxies, because they have been pushed together, they are trapped by their own gravity. And so they are whirling around, more or less the way you see them here, trapped by their own gravity. They're moving thousands of kilometers per second. And yet, they are not flying apart. There is strong gravity holding them together. But one of the questions that we have to tease out is, how do these structures form? How did the universe form these